Hi boys and girls, welcome to your video on graphing linear equations in standard form. So our learning target for the video is I can graph an equation in standard form. So by the end of the video, I just want you to have some basic background knowledge on what standard form is with graphing linear equations and how to solve for an equation in standard form so that we can graph it. So just a quick review. We just finished up slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. In this case, m represented our slope and b represented our y-intercept. We would graph our y-intercept, then use slope, rise over run, to graph another point. Now we also have something called standard form. The standard form of a linear equation is this. Ax plus by equals c. Again, I know that sounds like Spanish, but I'm going to break it down a little bit for you. A represents some number. B will also represent some number. And C will represent a number. Here's what the equation might look like. 5x plus 3y equals 2. Whereas 5 stands for A, 3 stands for B, and 2 stands for C. Now I'm going to bring up Desmos here. And I'm going to put an equation in standard form, and we're going to take a look at it. So let's do negative 2x plus 5y equals 10. Now, as you can see here, negative 2 represents A, plus 5 represents B, and 10 represents C. Now, one observation that we can make from this graph, let me zoom in a little bit, is that all lines cross both the x-axis, and the y-axis, unless there's special equations, which we've talked about with zero and undefined slope. Other than that, all equations of lines will intersect both the x and the y-axis. So here, this line intersects the x-axis at negative 5, and it intersects the y-axis at 2. We're going to use this information in order to solve and graph equations in standard form. So what I want you to do is get out your graphic organizer on standard form. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. And I want you to go to the front page first. What I did is I listed the steps in verbal form. And then I provided a placemat that we're going to use in class in the back. And I'll explain that in a minute. So graphing in standard form, there's two parts. Again, here's the equation in standard form. 3 or A, x, plus 4 or B, y, equals 12. To find the x-intercept, or where the line crosses the x-axis, we're going to plug in 0 for y. Because going back to this line here, this line crosses the x-axis at negative 5, you'll notice y is 0. So if I take this equation, I'm going to plug in 0 for y. And when I do that, it's simplified to just 3x equals 12. Because 4, let me get my ink tool. Because 4 times 0, or any number times 0, is just 0. So I took it away from our equation. So now we're left with 3x equals 12. In order to solve for x, we're going to divide both sides by 3 and applying our one-step equation knowledge. So 3x divided by 3 cancels out. So x is equal to 12 divided by 3, which is 4. So that means this line crosses the x-axis at 4. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, but to find the y-intercept, I'm going to plug in 0 for x. Again, looking at our line, when the line crosses the y-axis, x is 0. The coordinate is 0, 2. So we can plug in 0 for x. Whoops, we're not doing inequalities. 3 times 0 cancels out because anything times 0 is 0. So I'm left with 4y equals 12. I'm going to divide both sides by 4. 12 divided by 4 is 3. So that means this line crosses the x-axis at 4 and the y-axis at 3. So I'm going to graph. Let me pick a different color. This line crosses the x-axis at 4 and the y-axis at 3. And I'm going to connect my points a lot better than what I'm doing. And I just graphed this equation from standard form onto our graph. Now, we're also going to take a look at this placemat. And this is going to help you organize your work a little bit more. So our equation in standard form is negative 2x plus 6y equals negative 18. Now I know this concept is very abstract and there's a lot of steps. So this placemat will help you organize your work a little bit more. I color-coded all of your A values in blue and all of your B values in orange. So taking this equation, negative 2 x plus 6y equals negative 18. So to solve for our x-intercept, again, we would plug in 0 for y. And in that case, it'll cancel out this term. So then we'll just be left with negative 2x equals negative 18. I'm going to divide both sides by negative 2. The negative 2's cancel out, and I'm left with x equals negative 18 divided by negative 2, which is 9. Again, I'm going to do the same thing on the other side to solve for my y-intercept. By plugging in 0 times x, or 0 for x, I'm sorry, these will cancel out, so that I'm just left with 6y equals, let me move this over, negative 18. I'm going to divide both sides by 6. Negative 18 divided by 6 gives me negative 3. Negative 3. And then I would graph both these points. I would graph x on the x-axis at 9 and on the y-axis at negative 3, and I would connect my points. Now I'm going to use Desmos just to double check our work. negative 2x plus 6y equals negative 18. So I'll zoom out a little bit. And if you notice, the line crosses my x-axis at 9, going back to the placemat, x-axis at 9. I'll put the xy underneath here again to kind of help you graph your points. And this line should also cross the y-axis at negative 3. Ta-da! Isn't math wonderful? Okay, this concludes your video on graphing in standard form. Again, I understand some of this might be a little confusing, and it is a lot to take in at once. But coming into class tomorrow, you'll already have some background knowledge on how to graph in standard form, and the vocabulary and the steps will be very familiar to you. All right, everyone, I hope you have a great night, and I will see you tomorrow. Look who I found, everyone. Like math, Lincoln? No. You're scared of standard form, aren't you?